It may be the second day of spring, but the Sagandaga Lake here in the Adirondacks is still frozen over a little. We got snow all around. We have had about 3 or 4 snowstorms in maybe 2 weeks' time. I guess the snow is making up for it for this winter. In any case, this lake is only about 4 hours north of a town called Woodstock, New York. And I've just finished reading a book about Woodstock written by the person who organized it with his group, his venture, Michael Lang. It was an amazing book, and I'm going to tell you all about it. For those who might not know, Woodstock was a rock festival. It was a 3-day festival in New York State in 1969. What makes this festival outstanding is that it occurred at the wave of the counterculture. Also, it attracted about 450,000 people. Some people estimate even as high as 750,000. On the cover of the book, they show a musician. I believe it's John Sebastian, and that's the audience. That's how many people were. There was more to the left and the right, of course, but right there, that's a whole lot of people. It also had a musician roster of really outstanding people, the height of the time. What many people don't know is the extraordinary difficulty that the organizers had putting it together. Even though the festival turned out to be fabulous, no violence whatsoever, very peaceful 3-day concert. This is a picture of Michael Lang in his signature vest. I think he wore it through the whole festival. The vision for the festival was a gathering of tribes with peace and being outdoors near nature. They wanted it to be a haven for people with experimental lifestyles, and of course it was the height of the drug culture, so there was a lot of psychedelic things going on. Some of the things in the political world that were going on: the Vietnam War, the assassination of Robert Kennedy and Martin Luther King. There were anti-war demonstrations, there were race riots. It was really a very tough time in the world politically. But mostly, the overall vision was a chance to see if they could create the world they were demanding from the establishment. Many concerts in those days were given at stadiums or racetracks, and the idea that Woodstock was outdoors in a giant field was first seen when Michael Lang went to a summer series of concerts in Woodstock, New York, where they were out in a field. This is a picture of the festival site. Here's the field where the audience was all here. These are scaffolding for the sound system. This is the stage being built, some stage area. They originally chose a field in Wallkill, New York, but the town board was really kind of hesitant about having a rock concert. In those days, hippies were really looked down upon as just like pot-smoking, no-good loafer people. And there were not a lot of people in that village that really wanted the concert there. But they didn't disapprove of the concert until the group, the Woodstock Ventures, had already set up half of the stage. Finally, the Wallkill village said they weren't going to have the concert. So then here it was, closer and closer to the concert date, and they had to find another spot. They did finally find a spot in Bethel, New York, near White Lake, and it was on a farm owned by a man named Max Yasgur. This is the farmer Max Yasgur and his wife. They owned the field that Woodstock took place in. This picture was taken right after Woodstock. Everything that you see in the background is actually garbage. That's papers and blankets and all sorts of things left behind from 500,000 people. Max Yasgur was very for this project. He was very impressed at how well it went. He was more than happy to have the festival on his property. The organizers estimated 100,000 people, and as I mentioned, it was up to 450,000. They basically tried to set up a little city with food supplies, sewage, water, little pathways, everything, camping, everything. It really was almost like civic planning. This is the map of the Woodstock Festival. It's very, very small. I personally am having trouble trying to even find the stage. But I do see some things like camping areas. That says playground there. Tractor trailer parking. There's a tanker over here. This is a road. That's a road. And that's a road. Otherwise, it is so, so small. When the festival weekend finally arrived, there was so much traffic that cars couldn't even go through the roads. They closed off the throughway exit there. There was all backed up all down that road. This is a picture of the traffic. Actually, everything is parked still. There's no cars are moving. The cars go all the way up the road. These are all people in here walking all the way up the road, miles. Here's the start of a list of musicians. On Friday, we had all of these, Richie Havens, Sweetwater, all of these people. Richie Havens was not supposed to go on first. Sweetwater was supposed to go on first, but Sweetwater was late because of all the traffic getting to Woodstock. Richie Havens then went on because the organizers begged him to go on, and he ended up playing for 2 hours. At the end of 2 hours, Sweetwater still hadn't arrived. So Richie Havens had to make up a song, and the song that he made up turned out to be one of his most famous songs. There's a song called Freedom, and it's basically the same one word, freedom, repeated over and over again, and then he threw in a verse from Sometimes I Feel Like a Motherless Child. But he picked up on the spirit of the festival, and he has such wonderful rhythm and guitar playing that you never would have known it was written on the spot. But I really love that story. These are the artists for Saturday. Apparently, the first artist book for this festival was Jefferson Airplane, Creedence Clearwater Revival, Canned Heat, and Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young, who played on Sunday. There are some really wonderful stories about all these artists in the book. One that stands out for me is about The Who. Their manager wanted cash right at the time of their performance, and this was on Saturday, and there was no cash available to pay. However, they could have paid them cash on Monday, but the manager said, if you don't pay us now in cash, we're not going on. And The Who is a really, really big band, and if they hadn't appeared, it would have been a disappointment. So what Michael Lang ended up doing was saying, okay, you don't have to play. I'll just go on stage and tell the audience that The Who won't play because their manager wants cash right now. And the manager stopped talking and said, okay, send The Who on stage. Here's Sunday's musicians. Some really great stories about all of these people too. Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young had actually just formed and had just finished recording their album, but I don't think they had ever performed in front of any audience as a group like that. And they, in the interview that I've seen actually in a movie, they were really overwhelmed to do their first act in front of 450,000 people. Jimi Hendrix was supposed to play at something like 8 o'clock on Sunday, but the festival ended up going all the way through till Monday morning, and Jimi Hendrix, I think, went on at about 8 o'clock in the morning on Monday morning. Many of the audience members had left already because they had to go to work or wanted to go home or something like that. So if you ever see a movie about Woodstock, the Jimi Hendrix part of the show, there's only about 10,000 people in front of him. People ask, why wasn't John Lennon there, or the Beatles, or Jim Morrison and the Doors? Apparently, Jim Morrison was afraid he was going to be assassinated, which I would never doubt someone's instinct on something like that. The Beatles, they felt were too big, that would attract way too many people, and John Lennon had just been denied immigration in England. He was quite an activist against the war. My overall takeaway on the book is it's inspiring to me to do all of that and face all the adversity and just keep going and have this amazing event that happened. Another thing that was interesting is that Michael Lang was actually getting extorted in some incidences. People wanted a piece of the pie, and they were threatening him to do things if he didn't pay up or include them. And some of these people were in the counterculture that were well known. For example, Abby Hoffman pressured him to be included and insisted on being able to print a newspaper every day on the grounds, which I think worked for about a half a day, and there were so many people there was no way to distribute the newspapers. But that, the fact that your own people would be against you, and then also that there were so many obstacles, yet he kept going. The whole group, the Woodstock Ventures, kept going. Thank you so much, everybody. Spring is really here. I have enjoyed the snow quite a bit. Ready for a change. I hope you are too, and I hope you have some great fun things to do in the good weather. And I'll see you in the next video.